Now that we've had like a good year to sit on Deadpool and Wolverine, I still love it. It's not recency bias. It's still an excellent movie, and it kind of revitalized my interest in that X-Men series. I only don't like three movies in it. I grew up with these movies. In 2000, I was 4 years old. That was when the first X-Men came out. So with that being said, let's start with the worst one. It's no surprise, X-Men Origins Wolverine. I mean, dude, anyone who's seen any amount of these movies and gets this far goes, oh, that's the worst one, hands down. It's like not even a contest. Like, seriously, what's worse? Oh, Dark Phoenix is worse. Dark Phoenix is way better. It ruins everything that you liked about Wolverine. It ruins everything that was good about the original trilogy. It's the first one after the trilogy comes out. It's the fourth one in the whole series. There's like 13 now or something. It consistently ranks amongst the worst Marvel adapted media, up there with like worst picture winning Howard the Duck, up there with Elektra. The CGI, the claws before and after this movie both look really convincing. The X-Men original trilogy has excellent CGI claws, and then obviously today the CGI standards are like through the roof, so claws are spectacular. They just did CGI claws in Deadpool and Wolverine a year ago. It looked spectacular. And yet in 2009, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They looked like trash. But hey, great movies have had bad effects before, right? Everything about the movie is bad. The acting, the storyline. Hugh Jackman is really trying. He's taken everything they're giving him and just given his all to this performance, but it is just a catastrophic failure. The idea that he's Weapon X, even though the X-Men comes from Charles Xavier's last name, that now it's just a big stupid coincidence. There is a reason that it is the most mocked on movie in the first and second Deadpool movies. 13, of course, is The Wolverine. This movie is really, really boring. It's not the worst. Obviously, it's not the worst one. I just talked about the worst one, but like, it's just really disappointing. I mean, the only interesting part to me was the bullet train scene, which was really cool. But again, that's like a couple minutes of screen time. I like the idea of Wolverine in Japan fighting ninjas and stuff, but the characters were just so bland and forgettable, and there was nothing to them. Nobody has an arc except maybe like the main villain. But even then, it's just he gets in a mech suit at the end, and it's just so like overblown. It doesn't fit the tone of the movie at all. Everything wrong with this movie, James Mangold rectified with the next movie, obviously. So you really get to see what he would do without the studio pushing all this big, giant, crazy Marvel third act shit. But even without that, it's just not the best story. It's not very compelling. And in the context of the series, none of it comes back. Like, none of it is relevant for the mainline X-Men movies. None of it's relevant for the Logan. There's nothing here that like matters in context, and there's something here that matters on a movie scale, just on its own movies, like judgments and terms. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When you're rewatching the entire series, skip it, nothing changes. Number 12 is X-Men The Last Stand. This to me is still the movie I go to when I think of a 5 out of 10. For me, it is equal parts great and stupid. It does a lot better than the first two Bryan Singer X-Men movies, and it does a lot worse than the Bryan 2 X-Men movies. The first two X-Men movies I love. You'll see them way later on this list because I really appreciate those movies. One of the only criticisms I have is that they're so toned down that you don't actually get to see the characters be the characters from the comics, like use their powers and do interesting things on screen. You do sometimes. X-Men 3 gives you that. So if that's what you're looking for, this is like the thing. It was a Marvel movie before Marvel movies were a thing, before the MCU even came out, before Iron Man. In that way, I really appreciate it, and I like the conclusionary nature of the story. I don't like what happens in the story, but hey, that's neither here nor there. But there is a very distinct tonal difference between the first two and X-Men The Last Stand. I think it's just so jarring to watch after X2 that it almost doesn't fit in the same universe, you know? It really does feel like a studio directed it, not a person. And on that level, it just feels more soulless, even though it has the most like narratively going on. Like there's so many plot lines, so many like grand character arcs come into conclusion here, and some pay off and some work well. I really like the Mystique thing where she gets cured and Magneto just discards her, and I thought that was like really powerful. Like, whoa, she was his ride or die, and now he doesn't care at all. There are some powerful narrative things in here, powerful decisions. When I'm in traffic driving to work to this day, I still imitate Magneto crushing the cars, tossing them out of the way. I think we all do that sometimes. So it does great things, does bad things. I am so mixed on this movie, I don't even know how to feel. So that's just how I feel. But as of right now, it's the third worst one. Fourth worst one. This is number 11 on the list. The New Mutants. I don't even hate this movie. I don't. I just don't love it. It's just an average film, like an average B-list horror movie. It has things that I appreciate more than most people appreciate. I like the idea of expanding the X-Men universe out and not putting Wolverine in there, explore a new corner of this world because you have had the power to this whole time. I like the cast. I think the acting is about as strong as it possibly could be, given the fact that they're all teens. Excellent child actors don't come along that often, so I think that they do really well. Obviously, Maisie Williams is fresh off Game of Thrones. She's doing really well. Anya Taylor-Joy is going to blow up in the years to come, so this is a very early in her career decision here. I like the concept. I like the story, and I really do wish we got to see that X-Men trilogy come to fruition, that the director had like a whole plan of like what he would do, each movie being its own type of horror movie. I would love to see the second and third iteration of this team. I would love to see those storylines come to fruition, but obviously that's never going to fucking happen. Hell no. But yeah, it's really bland. It reminds me of the Wolverine in terms of like, just skip it. It's got nothing going on. There's nothing there for you. There's no scene that jumps out as like, oh, that's the best thing ever. It's just mid-tier X-Men. It's just not great. Speaking of mid-tier X-Men, my number 10 is X-Men Dark Phoenix, or just Dark Phoenix as the marketing would have you believe. It is just barely better a Dark Phoenix adaptation than The Last Stand, because it's actually about the Dark Phoenix and not juggling separate storylines that have nothing to do with each other. I appreciate this movie and what it's trying to do. Simon Kinberg directing. He's been part of the series for like 20 years at that point, so he finally has a chance to direct one of these. It works out in some aspects. I like the darker tone, the more mature tone. It's more subdued. The acting is like, it feels like a return to the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, part 1 and 2. And the action is really good. Like, it's got some of the best action scenes in the series. I'm not even kidding. Like, there's an action scene I still remember to this day. Beast in London, and he's like jumping over the double-tiered bus, having like a crazy showdown with the aliens. But the best action scene in the movie, and one of the best in the X-Men series, is the third act on the train. Now, they changed the third act because it was too similar to Captain Marvel at the time, because they were dealing with Skrulls, and they weren't Skrulls, and they didn't have the rights to Skrulls, whatever. So they changed the third act to be this train fight. They did it all from the ground up. The train fight's crazy. It's really good. It's got what I like about X-Men 3, where they all use their powers, but it's also in the context of a better story than X3. You get to see characters do things you've never seen them do before. Like, Nightcrawler uses his powers in a really cool and interesting way, and I love that. Magneto, the train's made of metal. That just lends itself to some visual storytelling that's just really out of there. But yeah, the flaws, I mean, the whole damn story is just predicated on, like, let's just change everything movie to movie. In X-Men Apocalypse, she unleashes the Dark Phoenix, and then the movie after that, she gets the Dark Phoenix. Like, they don't... everything was set up for you to just connect this perfectly and flow into the next one, and they just, like, fuck it. I don't even want to watch those old movies. Let's just write a new one and reboot it. So in that context, it failed pretty hard. It failed at the box office because it was, like, either right after or during COVID. Yeah, it was right after COVID, because New Mutants was, like, one of the first movies back from COVID, and then this came out after that and just did not do well. They didn't even call it X-Men. I'm sorry, I mentioned it before, but, like, it's an X-Men movie. You didn't even call it fucking X-Men? No wonder it bombed. It's your fault. Number 9 is X-Men Apocalypse. Now, this is a movie that, in my opinion, is pretty weak. Pretty narratively. The villain is just so one note and bland and has nothing going on. It's visually interesting. They're becoming more of a comic book X-Men team and evolving as the series grows on. If it weren't for the Quicksilver scene in the mansion, this would be a bland, forgettable film. That scene propels it up to this rank on the list. It would be lower. It's such a good... It's one of the best scenes in any superhero movies ever made. It's just top tier. Days of Future Past, which we'll talk about, has the first Quicksilver super speed scene. That movie is better than this one. This movie's Quicksilver scene is better than that one's Quicksilver scene. It's just the same concept scaled up with everyone involved and a killer soundtrack. And it's just 5 minutes of me loving cinema. And then the movie goes back to what it is, and it's just like, oh, what a drop off in quality here. Jennifer Lawrence doesn't want to be Mystique anymore. She doesn't want the makeup anymore. She doesn't even transform on screen. You can tell she doesn't care at all. Psylocke is a non-character. She's literally there to just stand there and look cool and then have cool visual effects come out of her hands. Cool, in quotations. So she does nothing. says nothing to anyone, has no story, has no arc. Like, why was she there? What was the point of putting her in the movie? But it is a satisfying ending. Again, Dark Phoenix does not follow up on this ending. They should have. But when all the X-Men are together at the ending in the training room and they all got the classic suits on, there's something so nice about that. Mystique leading them, questionable, but I love the idea that the next one is going to be true X-Men. And then Dark Phoenix happened, and it wasn't. Number 8 is X-Men. Now, this movie's really good. This is the line on the list where we're now entering into movies that I think are really, really solid and about to be really great pretty soon. This movie's awesome. At a convention that I sold my book at, I met Tyler Mane, super cool guy. That man is a tower. He's like 10 foot 20. This and Spider-Man, Sam Raimi, got me into superhero movies. It started me on this life path of just being obsessed with movies, and this movie is really fun. It holds up. You know, there's some dated elements. The costumes, I mean, black leather. This is what inspired the trope of superhero movies not having superhero costumes in them. But, like, regardless, it's such an interesting time capsule of what that era is. Like I said, it still holds up, but it does show its age. The story is really interesting. I love Magneto's plan. If you think about it, it does make sense. You know, a lot of superhero movies don't have that aspect to them. It establishes all the characters that matter, all the interplay. Charles and Magneto just going back and forth. It's just such an excellent thing on screen, and it's just carried over for all these years. The acting's great, and the writing is great. And I'll say this, the directing is really, really great. I think the way that Bryan Singer started and set up this franchise and set these characters up like it's a pilot episode almost. But at the same time, it's not a cliffhanger ending. It's a standalone story. It works. If they never made another movie after this, it still works as its own movie. I just think it's so strong. And I love how every character was introduced and how they all have their own unique gift and they all use their own unique gift in certain ways. Some characters have more to do than others. It's a 2-hour movie. You have like dozens of characters with superpowers. You're never going to give them all attention like they all deserve. But at the same time, the X-Men had like decades of comics just going on and on and on and on. So obviously they have the time to establish those characters. With what this movie had to do in the little time it had, it did about as well as you could have done. Very rewatchable and very strong. Holds up. Definitely go watch it again if you haven't in a while. Number 7 is Deadpool 2. Now we're getting into the territory of like really great goddamn movies. Movie's almost as good as Deadpool 1. It's the weakest in the series, the Deadpool trilogy, and I still love it, which speaks to the quality of the Deadpool movies. This movie is so funny, wildly entertaining. It takes what worked about Deadpool 1 and ramps it up. The action, I think, was great in Deadpool 1, but the action is even better here because David Leitch directs it, and he did exceptional. It's really engaging, really fun to watch. The comedy is subjective. It's just, for me, it super hits. Every joke, everything about it just landed. The only thing that brings it down from Deadpool 1 is that Deadpool 1 was so refreshing, right? There wasn't really a movie like Deadpool until Deadpool came out. It was the one that opened up the door to being a crazy action comedy, R-rated superhero movie mainstream. Like it was kind of the first of its kind to be successful anyway. And Deadpool 2, to an extent, is more of the same. I get how and why, you don't really want to switch up the formula that much. It's only been 2 years. You want to get these things out before Disney buys you. But it works. Given their constraints and what they had to do with what little time they had, they did great. They did fantastic. So, this is a high mark from me. Love Deadpool 2. Number 6 is X-Men First Class. This movie is awesome. It is credited for revitalizing the X-Men franchise after Part 3 and Origins came out back-to-back. This is the one that made it continue as a series. It could have been rebooted or given back to Disney because they didn't make anything. This is the one that Matthew Vaughn stepped in and said, let's make something fresh and new and original and also be in the confines of the original trilogy and lead into that continuity. This is it. This is the one that did it. It does it so well. And you get them in their classic suits, their flight suits. They look like actual tactical fucking suits, but they're the X-Men comic suits from the classic era, and I love that. It's such a breath of fresh air. I was talking about how X-Men 3 didn't feel tonally consistent with the original trilogy. This is also a little different of a tone, but it's closer to the original trilogy, and it gets to be more light and fun because you're in the 60s. You're 40 years removed from X-Men 2000, so you get to have a different flavor and a different style. Every role they recast, namely Professor X and Magneto, they did really, really well. They had really big shoes to fill with Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen. But dude, McAvoy and Fassbender are legends. And they have earned the right to call themselves Professor X and Magneto based on their acting talents alone. They are exceptional, they're fantastic, and the best part is that they also, along with Stewart and McKellen, get to say that they rode those characters out until they made bad movies. Because that's exactly what happened to those two as well. The third act is a perfect blend of excellent character-driven decisions and storytelling and big third act Marvel action. And every action piece has a narrative reason or a character reason for happening. They're shooting missiles at the coastline, and Magneto stops them. Moral dilemma of I've been at the mercy of men following orders, never again. He turns the missiles, fires them back. That is an example of a character-driven plot scene, a character-driven spectacle. The X-Men series is at its best, at its peaks, when it's doing stuff like that. And we'll talk about some other peaks in just a second. Number 5 for me is Logan. I might be controversial not having this as number 1, but I think it's an exceptional movie. I think it's not higher on my list because I love other movies on this list too. I love the X-Men series. Obviously, you can tell I only don't like 3 of them. I don't have to tell you that Logan is a perfect ending to the Wolverine character. Everyone who watches this movie calls it the perfect ending, and it really is a perfect ending. It's brilliant. I love how it just concludes the X-Men saga at this point in time in a really fun, not fun, but satisfying way. It's dark, it's sad, it's grim. It has its moments of levity, moments of like, hell yes. The aggression in the woods when he's serumed up and he's shredding through people one more time. So satisfying to watch. But you know it comes at a cost, and that cost is the character. It's one of the best conclusions to a character. Like in cinematic history, like any long-running franchise coming to an end with a character's arc. You think of like Iron Man and Endgame. Kevin Feige has admitted, like, when they were writing the end of Iron Man and Endgame, they were like, we're aspiring to have as good of an ending as Logan was years prior. This is like the gold standard. Patrick Stewart does some of the best acting in his entire career, and this is a man who does not do bad performances. He only does great performances, and this is still maybe his best ever. Certainly his best as Professor X. It's just so multi-layered and so multi-dimensional. Every character has like 10 things going on, and there's so much confliction, and yet the story is so simple. It really just takes its time with what it has and just lets every scene just breathe to the right amount. There's basically nothing negative I can say about Logan. Which reminds me of my number 4 pick, Deadpool. This is always going to be one of the best superhero origin movies for me, just ever. And it's a kind of semi-parody of one anyway, but it also works in a serious context. I don't know how you could have adapted the Deadpool character better than this. And I love the Deadpool character. Prior to this movie coming out, I loved him from like other media, comics, video games, and stuff. This is arguably the best possible way they could have done it. Like, this is peak. They didn't sacrifice anything about him. They kept virtually everything that makes him interesting and added more things. They added Vanessa. Comic book movie romances usually do not work at all, or they're just there to just be part of it and no one really cares about the chemistry. This one is about the romance, and it's really into what the chemistry even means. It's just so relatable. Like, I've definitely had like romances like this, and it's like, wow, that no wonder he cares so much about her. The supporting cast is super funny and interesting. I love Negasonic. I love Colossus. The actor who plays Colossus is super nice, by the way. I met him at Comic-Con. And in terms of superhero movies, even at the time, it was pretty cheap. It's like, I think 50 million. Given how much they spent, how little they spent, it looks on par with like the top tier superhero movies. Like, it's unbelievably good. It made its own genre. It made its own path. This is the fresh, original, creative idea that other movies want to rip off. This is it. This is the one. All right. Top 3 for me are like God tier movies. These are the only 3 not mentioned, so you can do it in your head which ones I'm talking about, but this is just the order that they're in. Number 3 for me is X2. There was a time where this was like the number 1 or 2 best superhero movie of all time. Obviously, we've had another few decades worth of superhero movies since then, so like, you know, it's got a lot of competition, but in the context of the X-Men series, top 3 for me, easy. This is brilliant. It's near perfect in terms of carrying on itself as a sequel to X1, X1 being awesome on its own. Characters have more to do. Cyclops, Jean, and Logan, their love triangle is more explored and develops further, to the point where I wish we got a great X3 to conclude it, but I love Pyro. I love the characterization of somebody who starts out as one of the X-Men, but genuinely wants to do more. He has higher ambitions than just being a student of Xavier. He wants to do more impactful things with his life. With a negative slant, he's very selfish, obviously. It's such a logical narrative follow-through to have Magneto kind of seduce him to their side. And the third act is really fun. It's such a satisfying ending to the movie, and it's the right amount of large scale, but not going too crazy where you forget the stakes. And it stays, again, character driven, the word of the day. It's so entertaining. Arcs come to satisfying conclusions, and a lot of powers are just interesting visually to watch. Nightcrawler, such a highlight. I really wish Alan Cumming came back before Avengers Doomsday. And Brian Cox is killing it. Like, you can't even say he's chewing the scenery. The scenery sometimes chews him. He's like, it's just an excellent, perfect role. Excellent script, and I don't have flaws with it. It's brilliant. Number 2 for me. I really sat and thought if this was number 1 for a while, but now that it's been about a year or so, I can cool off on it. Deadpool and Wolverine. This is an excellent movie. It's a damn near perfect X-Men series movie. It's a damn near perfect Wolverine movie, a damn near perfect Deadpool movie. It's just everything you want out of a movie called Deadpool and Wolverine in the context of this series. It gives you and then over-delivers, and then does not stop over-delivering. And I'm not just talking spectacle, because it has plenty of that. Plenty of fun, crazy action. I think the best action in the series, the hand-to-hand combat, is the best here it's ever been. But it delivers the heart and the message and the themes. I love how it balances the tone of arguably some of the darkest stuff in any of the X-Men movies, any of the MCU, and yet also the funniest parts of the entire series. Like, it's genuinely like blending that so well. Deadpool 1 blended it really well too, but this one just takes it up another level. Like, it goes straight for the heartstrings. And Sean Levy as a director knows how to incorporate music into key parts of his movies. You saw that with Free Guy. The Mariah Carey song Fantasy was in the third act of Free Guy, played orchestrally, and they took the idea of that and applied it to this one with the Like a Prayer by Madonna. And, it's laughable. It's funny. I'm laughing at it right now. But in context, oh my God. It is so powerful. And it genuinely, just when they're holding those stupid beams and holding each other in the hands, and it does all the flashbacks of like other parts of the Deadpool movies and the series and stuff. And, oh, dude, like, it's like, wow, yes, this is exactly like, if you didn't have that scene, it's still a great third act. But with that scene, it's so much more emotional and packs so much more of a punch. And once they exploded, I genuinely, for a moment there, considered the idea that they could be dead, both of them. Because Hugh Jackman already pieced out as Wolverine, right? And there's a chance that Disney doesn't want to do Deadpool in future movies, and that's totally understandable. So I would totally get it if they both really did explode at the end. For one of the first times in my life, I watched a superhero movie where the heroes, like, could have been dead in the third act, and I didn't immediately go, well, they're just going to come back immediately. They're superheroes. This is a big franchise. I actually bought it for a second, and that's one of the only times in a superhero movie where they fake deathed me, and I was like, you actually got me. You had me going. Genuinely. Only a movie like this, in this context, with these characters, in the context of this new series and the old series, like, it's a very unique movie in a unique position. Only that could have made me think that. All the story building up to that moment really paid off, and yeah, it's easily one of the most emotional movies in the X-Men series, if not the. But now we get to the top dog here. We get to the creme de la creme. X-Men Days of Future Past. It's no secret. This movie is perfect. It is one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. Everything about it is perfect. I have no criticisms. I'm not even kidding. It takes the best parts of the Bryan Singer trilogy and the best parts of X-Men First Class and mixes them perfectly. There's like no weak element. I talk a lot about like the only problems with the Bryan Singer movies are like not a lot of the characters have stuff to do. Some do, some don't. Every major player in X-Men Days of Future Past has something to do. Every single prominently featured character has either an arc, a purpose in the story, or some reason for being there. And if they have none of that, then they're Blink, which is visually interesting to watch. So, works for me. This simultaneously cements itself as the best movie in the prequel saga and the best movie in the original series, because they're all in it, the cast is mixed, and when Professor X meets Professor X at the end, holy shit, dude. Like, that's not just a satisfying visual moment that they put in the trailer, which was deserved because it was an awesome moment, but like the dialogue, and like this is exactly what each of them would say in that moment and impart on himself this advice, and it's just it's so powerful. As any kind of fan of the series, it's like unbelievably good. It is the highest grossing mainline X-Men movie. You know, Deadpools don't count. It is for a reason. It's not just because it's a big crossover event. It's not just because it's their Avengers. It is their Avengers, but it is the best story. It is the best execution of that story, and it's just perfect. It is a perfect movie. Deadpool and Wolverine is the most rewatchable and the most emotional X-Men movie, but Days of Future Past is hands down the best movie in the X-Men series, the best actual narrative feature, and it pays off everything that it sets up and accomplishes everything it tries to do, and I'm so happy about that. So that's it. That era of superhero movies has concluded. Deadpool and Wolverine is the end of that era and other movies in that era as well, but it's the start of something new. They're probably going to be in one or both of the Avengers movies coming out, so hell yes. Or in the immortal words of Hugh Jackman, let's fucking go.